Now let us understand another important aspect or concept related to ordinary annuity versus annuity due. Normally, when nothing is mentioned, any annuity is an ordinary annuity. Annuity due is little different. What is that difference? Let us understand that. First of all, what is an ordinary annuity? Whenever we say annuity, it is ordinary annuity. In the ordinary annuity, of course, we know that already, that definitely there should be some constant amount that should be either received or paid, and that should be received or paid at the same point in every period. Also, that should be compounded once each period. But the point is, when is this receipt or payment happening? In the case of ordinary annuity, the receipt or payment is happening at the end of the period. So when we say year 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, if some amount is received or paid in year 1, question comes when in year 1. Is it at the beginning of year 1 or at the end of year 1 or somewhere in the middle of the year 1? Middle and all we cannot take. So we have to take that it is either received or paid at the end of a period. Whenever we say that it is received or paid, that is ordinary annuity. So unless otherwise stated, always whenever we say some amount of cash flow is either coming in or going out, that cash flow is coming or going out, coming in or going out at the end of the period is the basic assumption. You have to always take that automatically. That is what ordinary annuity mean. But this annuity due is a special case. What is annuity due? Annuity due happens when the payments or receipts are happening at the beginning of the each period. See, normally it's an assumption only, by the way. Really, will the cash flows happen on one day at the beginning of the period or the end of the period? Not possible. Usually they accrue over a period of time during the year. But again, we cannot take the present values or future values for each day. We can, but again that involves more complex calculations. So we are taking generally most of the cases 1 year as a basis. So the point is, when some amount is received or paid in one particular year, when is that amount received or paid? In reality, it could be received or paid at any point of time during the year. But for us, when we compute either the present values or future values, then the basic assumption is under an ordinary annuity that these are received or paid at the end of the period. That is normal circumstances. Exceptional case is what? Annuity due. So it has to be given in the question that some annuity is annuity due. Then only we can consider that as annuity due. Otherwise, normally every annuity is an ordinary annuity only. So what is the difference here? In case of if it is annuity due, then the assumption changes. The assumption is that the cash flows are happening not at the end of the period, but at the beginning of each period. That's what is the assumption that is going to be taken if the annuity is an annuity due, but not an ordinary annuity. Now, naturally, a question comes: how to compute the future values when it is an annuity due? If it is an ordinary annuity, we can simply take this table. This is called future value interest rate factors annuity. We have seen that already. This is the name given to this table. If it is an ordinary annuity, then how to convert an ordinary annuity into an annuity due? So many things can be done. Actually, there can be a separate table also for annuity due, but unfortunately, most of the times we will not be provided with that table. Normally, what tables are provided? As I told already, 4 tables are provided in general. One is PVIF, that is present value interest rate factors. This is PVIF. This is the exact word we should use for that, technical name. Then we have PVIFA, present value, interest rate factors, annuity. This is the second table. Then normal FVIF, this is nothing but compound interest, one-time investment. How much it becomes after a certain period of time is FVIF. Then FVIFA, that's all. And whenever we say annuity, whether it is PVIFA or FVIFA, we are talking about ordinary annuity only, not annuity due. So now the point is how to convert an ordinary annuity factor into an annuity due factor. It is not a big deal. It can be done very easily. Let us look at the point straight away without beating around the bush. Straight away, how to convert a factor that is one of these amounts or decimals and numbers which are given as FVIFA, ordinary annuity, how to convert that into another factor which is annuity due. How to do that? Let us see that. This is the simple and straightforward process for that. Future value of an annuity due can be directly found out like this. Of course, the periodic payment, whatever it is, it will be taken, multiplied with, we have to take the future value of an ordinary annuity factor for n plus 1 periods. For example, if the number of time periods is 4, we should not take for 4 years. We have to take for 5 years or 5 periods. Not n periods, n plus 1 periods we have to take. FVIFA minus 1 will automatically give us future value of an ordinary, future value of an annuity due. So future value of an ordinary annuity can be directly found out from the table. But future value of an ordinary due, future value of an annuity due can be found out by taking that FVIFA for n plus 1 periods minus 1. That gives us the factor of an annuity due. That's all. Simple. So let us apply this in one of the examples for understanding purposes. Let us take this for example. So the future value of $1 ordinary annuity factor for 3 years at 5% is 3.153. Every time we have to understand that, not mechanically look at tables and numbers, crunching, computations, multiplications. This should be the last priority. Of course, they are important, but they are not the ones to be focused. What does it mean? When we say $1 ordinary annuity for 3 years at the rate of 5% means what? It means for 3 years you are investing $111 at the end of the year. How do we know end of the year? That will be because ordinary annuity. How many years? 3 years, 3 periods. You are investing $1 at the end of each period. Like that 3 years. See, normally without any time value of money, it should be 3. 1 plus 1 plus 1, 3. But it will not be 3, we know that, because there is interest also. Because of this 5% interest, there will be something plus over and above this 3. How much is that? We can calculate that, but we don't need to. Why? Because tables are there. All that we need to do is, this is ordinary annuity. This is ordinary annuity. Ordinary annuity, always you have to keep in mind. Whenever you look at tables, 2 things should be only in mind. 1, number of periods. 2, the interest rate per period. What is interest rate per period here? Incidentally, the period is year only. Interest rate is 5%. Time period is 3 years. 5%, 3 years. 5%, 3 years. That should go. So 5%. Okay, 5%. Then 3 years. Where is that here? That's it. 3.153 is the future value interest rate factor annuity. 3.153. Which means, let us say, for example, at the end of each year, if you are investing, say $10,000, how much it will become after 3 years? Normally it should become $30,000. But again, as we know, it will become more than $30,000 because of interest. How much? Simply multiply that. Periodic payment is how much here? 10,000. It should be constant. We know that. That should be just simply multiplied with the FVIFA 3.153. So how much it will become? $31,530. Simple. That we know about ordinary annuity, which means if the $10,000 is invested at the end of each period for 3 years, that becomes how much? 31,530. That can be easily found out, but let us just for understanding purposes also calculate in a raw manner so that it will be same. There are 3 years and each year you are investing $10,000 at the end of each year, not at the beginning of each year, isn't it? Now, just for understanding purposes, when at the end of year 1, you invested $10,000, how many more years is left there? 2 years only. So this $10,000 will earn interest for 2 years, but annual compounding. So at the end of year 2, how much this will become? This will become 10,000 multiplied with 1.05. It will become 10,500. On that, for year 3 also there will be interest, isn't it? So how much that will become? On that, another 5% means 1.05. If you take 11,025, the first 10,000 will become by the end of third year 11,025. Then what about that 10,000 which is invested at the end of second year? That has only 1 year left. It has only 1 year left, which means how much will be the amount there? Only 10,500. Only 10,500. Let us take that. And at the end of third year, if you are investing 10,000, it will not get any interest because there is no time. Already end of third year, you invested 10,000, you are taking back the principal also. So how much that will be? It will be same 10,000. So this 10,000s will get different interests, different things. So approximately how much you will receive at the end of third year? 31,525. How much we got here? 31,530. Naturally, there will be difference because of decimals. Same thing, 31,530 you will receive. And we don't need to do all this every time. That is the reason why we have this FIFA, which will make our life simple. Straight away, 10,000 multiplied with 3.153 will give us 31,530, which is the same. Even if you compute in a raw manner also, it will get the same. But point to note here is, these $10,000 are getting invested at the end of each year. So the first $10,000 which is invested at the end of first year got 2 interests. Put together, that 10,000 became 11,025. The second 10,000 became 10,500 because only 1 year interest was there. Third 10,000 did not get any interest because it has been deposited or invested at the end of third year, and you are withdrawing also at the end of third year. So for an ordinary annuity, here 31,530 approximately is the amount that will be received at the end of 3 years. That is clear. But point is, these calculations only for understanding, not that we have to do them every time. Every time we don't have to prove these tables. Tables are already there. We just have to use them. Enough. For once we have proven them, that's it. Now that is ordinary annuity. Moving on to an annuity due. Same 10,000. Imagine if the same 10,000 is deposited at the beginning of each period, then what will happen? Let us do the raw calculation first. Then let us move on to taking the future value interest rate factor annuity due, not ordinary annuity. And we know how to do that. We have to just take the FIFA ordinary annuity for n plus 1 periods, and then minus 1 will give us the FIFA for annuity due. We'll come to that later. But let us do the raw calculation, how it will become at the end of 3 years, how much it should become approximately. First thing first. Story is simple. $10,000 at the beginning of year, not end of year now. Beginning of year means first year also there will be interest. When first year also there is interest. First year how much interest will be there on this first 10,000? Naturally 10,500, 5% interest. Okay. Now second year interest will be interest on that 10,500 also, that is included. So naturally 11,025. Then third year also there is interest on that. So instead of getting only 2 years interest like earlier, now this first 10,000 will get 3 years interest because it is invested at the beginning of the year. First year also it will get an interest around 500. Second year it will get an interest extra, whatever it is, that is, let us say around 525. Third year it will get something extra also, like that. But finally, how much this will become at the end of third year? This 10,000 becomes at the end of third year 11,576. That is going to be the amount after 3 years if you invested the first 10,000 rupees one shot. Now the second 10,000 will not get any interest in first year, naturally. Why? Because it was invested at the beginning of second year. First year is already over. But second year it will get interest. How much? Same, 10,500. Third year it will get interest. How much? Same, 11,025. So amounts are same, 5% on this. But 2 times only it will get. Then third 10,000 is invested at the beginning of third year. So how much interest it will get? Only 500. For 1 year only it will get. Earlier it was not getting any interest. Now it will get interest because it was invested at the beginning of third year. So inclusive of third year's interest also, we have to take that total. So now how much is the total? Approximately 33,100 approximately. Is it not the same here? Yes, it is. Now how to get this? Directly from the tables. 33,100 is the future value of a annuity due. Means amount is invested at the beginning of the year. Can we get this from tables directly? Yes. How? All that we need to do is 10,000 is common. That is not a problem. 10,000 is just some fixed amount, periodic amount. But main point is that factor. That factor requires what? Normally we take n periods at I rate of interest. Now what we should take? N plus 1 periods. 3 periods are there here. Now what we should take? We should not take 3 periods. We should take 4 periods. N plus 1 means 4.310 we have to take. 4.310 minus 1 will be the 1 factor that should be taken for annuity due. Straight away multiply that. You will get the same amount more or less. Just a $1 difference is for rounding error. That's okay. So 33,100 will be the amount that will be available with you if you deposit $10,000 each year for 3 years period at the beginning of the year, which is earning a 5% interest. That is the story of it. Every detail of the story should be very clear. How to get this? Simple. Take the FVIFA for n plus 1 periods minus 1. You get the future value interest rate factor annuity due. Straight away you can do that. So amount will be same. That's all. That is how this future value and future value interest rate factor annuity, ordinary annuity as well as annuity due, all of them can be understood. Now let us look at another example where the application of these things can be there. Look at this example. Coal's strip mining company needs to have a $5 million in 5 years in order to restore the land on which it is currently mining the coal. It can earn 6% interest per year on the funds it sets aside from earnings each year. So this is like a sinking fund, sometimes it is called, where you can create a fund separately and leave some amount and deposit or invest some amount each year periodically, some same amount, so that you need some lump sum amount after a certain period. Okay. If you take a simple personal life example, let us say you want to travel or you maybe want to go for a Europe trip after 2 years. That is your target. And you know that, let us say you will require say around $100,000 for that particular tour. Now you have 24 months with you, and you can earn some particular rate of interest if you deposit that money frequently and periodically in the bank account. How much you should deposit each year or each month, so that you reach to the $200,000 target or $100,000 target. Like that, anywhere this application can happen. Whenever you need a lump sum amount after a certain period of time. We listen to these things normally. Sometimes even the financial advisors, so-called, they will tell us, we see them in the newspapers also, sir, I want to have, some questions will come like this. I would like to retire by 50 years of my age. Now I am 30 years. In other words, I have 20 more years of service. And at the time of retirement, I want to have $1 million with me. How much should I save monthly or annually so that I reach to my target of, say, $1 million saving at the end of 20 years? Simple. All that complicated things which are the financial analysts or some advisors telling us, that's not some big deal. It can be just easily found out. Let us take the same story. For example, some person wants to have $1 million. Okay, $1 million. After 20 years. Okay, for simplicity, let us take he will save annually. Monthly means it will become how many periods? 240 periods. 12 into 20, 240 periods. Tables and all we cannot use. Again, we have to go back to formulae and all unnecessary complications. Not complicated, but Excel is very useful tool to solve those questions. We don't need to, because keeping the exam point of view also, we don't need to use any mathematical formula here. Simply we can use the table. So we'll restrict our examples to maximum extent where we can refer to tables easily and get the answers. So 20 years, yearly he will deposit some particular amount. What is that amount? That we don't know. So the point here to note is, in case a person is having some particular amount deposited at the end of each year, normally that will be the ordinary annuity. What is that amount? Periodic amount. Let us call it as annuity. And what is that amount? That we don't know. That's what we want to know. That multiplied with FVIFA should be equal to how much? That is $1 million. That is his target. So $1 million is already there in mind. How much it should become, that we know, already we have in mind. How much annuity, we don't know. So how to get this how much annuity? Simple. That $1 million target divided by FVIFA. Then how to know this FVIFA? That depends upon two things. One, the time period, which is in this case 20 periods, and two, interest. Let us just for simplicity purposes, let us take on an average 6% interest rate is the expected rate of interest. Let us say 6% interest, 20 periods, 6%, 20, 6%, 20. That should be there in mind while looking at that. 6%, 20. So okay, 6% is this. We are looking at FVIFA, correct table we have to look at. 6%, 20 periods, 20 periods, 20 periods. Where is that? 20 periods here. So is this the one? 20 periods? No, that is 7%. 6% is this. Correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 6%, 36.786. 20 periods, 6% means 36.786. So all that we need to do simply is this 1 million divided by 36.786. How much ever that amount is, that is what this person has to set aside each year so that he can reach the target of $1 million at the end of after 20 years. Let us do that computation. We have this already, so let us take directly this $1 million divided by 36.786 means how much? All that you need to do is simple. So some person who wants to have $1 million upon retirement after 20 years, let us say, all that he needs to do is he has to set aside, invest $27,184 each year. Of course, when is that? If the rate of interest is 6%. If the interest rate or the return that he can get on his investment is 6%. What if he can get 8% return? Then the amount he has to set aside will be lesser, naturally. What if he gets only 3%? Then the amount he has to invest will be more. So it depends upon two factors always. One is the time period. The second one is interest rate. In this case, this is the fact. So we have this amount of 27,184. That's an example. So like that, any type of question where the situation is related to FVIFA can be solved. One of the examples is this very classic example. Why? Because most of the people will ask this. If I have a target of some saving or some lump sum amount I want to have after my retirement or after some period of time. How much should I save periodically so that I reach there? This is the answer, simple. What is your target? Divided by FVIFA. FVIFA, when you calculate, you need two things. One is how much period you are going to invest. Of course, you are investing at the end of the period, that is ordinary annuity. We don't need to bring in annuity due every time. That is an exception. If it comes, how to get it, we know already. We just have to get the ordinary annuity factor for n plus 1 years minus 1 will become the annuity due factor. Simple. That is a separate story. But normally, FVIFA has to be ordinary annuity for certain number of time periods for certain percentage of interest. Always two factors only. For time value of money concept to be understood, two factors are only important. One is time period. Second one is number of course, the time period itself will tell the number of periods, and second one is the interest rate or the return per time period. That's all. So your target divided by FVIFA will give you how much you should set aside so that you reach to your target after a certain number of time periods. That's it. Similarly, for companies, this is a common phenomenon. Most of the cases, this will be there. For example, you can take like bonds to be redeemed. Companies issue bonds and they will have to redeem them after, let us say, 10 years. Same logic. Company has issued, let us say, certain bonds of, say, $100 million, let us say, and it has to redeem them after 10 years. Interest here is not the bond interest. Interest here is about the amount the company has to set aside and invest elsewhere so that it will get $100 million at the end of 10 years so that it can pay to the bondholders the principal amount. So what is the amount of interest that the company pays to bondholders is a separate topic. That anyway company will pay from its profits, if whether it has profits or not. It's a different story. But in order to have $100 million suddenly after 10 years, is it easy? No, it is not easy. That's why what usually the companies do is they set aside some money. A lot of even people will do that for personal purposes. People do that. So for going for pilgrimages, people set aside money. For going for world tours, people set aside money. Like that. Somebody wants to, have a luxury car after 5 years, set aside money. Like that, investment needs could be for any reason. Here, the investment need for the company is so that it can redeem its bonds after 10 years, $100 million. Suddenly, it needs that much of money as principal. So it wants to set aside separately for some 10 periods certain amount of money, which will fetch some interest to the company also, because the company is also investing elsewhere. It will invest in bonds of other companies maybe, or treasury bonds, or some other investments, whatever it is. So let us say, for example, the company gets a 4% return. Enough. This information is enough for us. All that we need to do is, what is FVIFA for 4% 10 periods? 4% 10 periods. 4% 10 periods. That's what we should just look at. FVIFA, first of all, is there 4%. Okay. 10 periods. Okay. This is the one. 12.006. 12.006. So all that we need to do is this target divided by 12.006. So the company needs to set aside around $8.3 million each year. That's all. Now also you can understand, without interest, how much the company has to set aside? $10 million, because it needs $100 million. It has 10 years, means each year it had to set aside $10 million. But it does not need to set aside $10 million. It can set aside less than that. Why? Because this amount is earning interest. So how much it needs to invest each year? Same amount periodically for 10 years. $8.3 million it has to do. Like this, any situation where we have a target amount after a certain number of periods, and we can invest some periodic money over a period of time, same amount of course, which will fetch certain percentage of return, whatever that may be. We can easily find out how much money to be set aside. In this particular case, let us come back to the example. This mining company requires a $5 million in 5 years. Okay. $5 million it will require. After 5 years. Okay. Fine. What is the interest it can earn? 6% it can earn, whatever the investment it makes, so that it gets $5 million at the end of 5 years. Simple, same way. What are the things to be noted? Two things only. 5 years, 6%. 5 years, 6%. 5 years, 6%. 6%, 5 years. Where is this? This is the one. 6%, 5 years, 5.637. Done. So how much it has to set aside each year? Simple. $886,997. That's it. That is a periodic payment it has to make and deposit somewhere wherever it invests for a period of how many years? 5 years. At the end of the period, of course, normally, because it is ordinary annuity, not an annuity due. So, like this, if it keeps aside 886,997 for 5 years at the end of each year, at the end of 5th year, how much it will get? It will get $5 million. Just for understanding, how much principal amount the company is setting aside? Only this much. That means, on this, how much interest the company is earning? Because at the end of the period, $5 million it is getting, but it invested only $4.43 million. So how much interest it got effectively overall now amount of interest across the 5 years period is $565,017 of interest it is getting. So like this, interest will play a very crucial role in understanding, of course, the time value of money itself and application wise various places. So where the future value interest rate factor is applied, this is one of the examples where a mining company requires certain lump sum amount of money after a certain period of time, or where a company which had issued bonds requires some lump sum amount of money to redeem bonds after a certain period of time, or even if you look at a personal level, somebody wants to have certain amount of money after a certain period of time. So how much he has to set aside? Same amount equally. All these things are basically about FVIFA applications, right? That is about FVIF and FVIFA, future values we can call them. Then it can be done with formula also. That's okay. Again, point is, it is not practically possible to solve with formula all the time. Why? Because you need to have the calculators which will support these computations, which is normally not possible. That is why preferable thing is to look at the tables and straight away use these tables. That will save time also and it will reduce the confusion also. Conceptual clarity if you have, easily we can refer to the tables and get the answers. That's all. That is about future value interest rate factors and future value interest rate factors, and questions related to the future value will come to them later. But before that, let us go back to the present values, which is going to be more useful in the topics of investment management and investment decisions, long-term investments, of course. How to get the present values of some things which will be received in future. Contexts and the story has to be very clearly known. So what was the future value we are talking about earlier? Earlier what we were talking about? Future value. That was related to how much a certain sum of money, let us say in this form of like investment, made either one time or periodically, will become after a certain period of time. So if I have invested $1 now, how much it will become after a certain period of time? That is FVIF, at a particular rate of interest. If I have invested not $1, if I invested $1 like this for a certain number of periods periodically, in this example 5 years, then how much this will become? Of course, this will become more than 5, whatever it is. That is FVIFA. So this FVIF will be more than 1 for sure, because compounding is happening. FVIFA will be more than the sum total of the investment itself. That is the extra amount of interest. That is compound interest. Whether compound interest is calculated on one-time investment or whether the compound interest is calculated on a periodic investment, as the case may be, we use FVIF or FVIFA. And again, we have to be very, very clear in the difference between them. Core difference is very simple. In case of FAIF, we are only talking about one investment, one shot. In case of FAIFA, we are not talking about one cash flow. We are talking about periodic cash flows. Equal cash flows happening at the end of the period for a certain period of time. That will be annuity. The concept of annuity will be same. But what we looked at earlier was future value interest rate factor annuity and future value interest rate factors. That was compounding aspect which we discussed. Now let us come to the other aspect, which is reciprocation of this only, that is discounting aspect. What does this mean? This means what will be the present value of the $1 that I will receive after a certain period of time. So earlier, how much $1 becomes after a certain period of time was FAIF. Now, already we know $1 is going to be either received or paid at the end of certain period. What is the present value of that? That is called PVIF. So, for compounding, what we used? Simple. 1 plus R to the power of N, whatever the denotions we use. For discounting, what we use? The reciprocal. 1 divided by 1 plus R to the power of N. That is a discount factor. So here, point of time has to be looked at very clearly. In the earlier scenario, the $1 was invested now. In the current scenario of PVIFs, $1 is not invested. $1 is what either we get or pay after some time in future. So this is now. And how this now becomes in future, that was FAIF. Now this one is future. One is not happening now. How much of that is valued now is PVIF. So this $1 is about now, this $1 is about future. So for the current investment of $1, we calculated FV, future value. Now for a future inflow or outflow, we are calculating present value. That's all. So earlier we called this compounding, now we call this discounting. Both are just reciprocal with each other. Formula for compounding was 1 plus R to the power of N. Formula for discounting will be 1 divided by 1 plus R to the power of N. Once again, what is R, what is N? That has to be very clear. R means the rate of return or the discount factor, simply speaking, per period. This has to be looked at. Not per year always, per period. N means number of, not years, not necessarily always, number of periods. If the compounding is happening annually, period will be year. If the compounding is happening quarterly, then it is different. If the compounding is happening half yearly, then it is different. So, depending upon the situation, we need to be very clear in identifying how many number of periods. So, always keep this word period in mind rather than year. Of course, in general, it will be year. In general. Is there any rule like that? No. So, here also same logic applies. Let us say, for example, there is some compounding that is happening quarterly for 3 years. Let us say. Then what will be N? N will not be 3. N will be 3 multiplied with 4 because each year consists of 4 periods. Total 12 periods. Same way, if the interest rate, let us say for example, was 8%. That was per annum. But what is the interest rate per period? It is not 8%. 8% per annum means per quarter it will be only 2%. So in the tables, what we should look at? You should not look at this. 8% if you look at, gone. Wrong answers will come. What we should look at? 12, 2%. So converting them according to the requirement is a very crucial aspect. And for that, we don't have to break our heads. It is simple. Always keep in mind period rather than year. Particularly when the compounding is not annual. If it is annual, period is equal to year, there is no problem. But if it is not annual, then you have to be taking care of the word period rather than year. Now, that is the application of present value. Simple logic. So, how to get a single sum present value? That means if you receive some amount after some time, what will be the present value of it now? So let us look at this example. Let us say Jane Brown will receive $10,000 in 1 year's time. If it is 1 year's time, how much will be the present value of that? That will be less than 10,000 naturally, because we are discounting. For this purpose, we need two things always. For one is interest rate, second one is number of periods. Interest rate is 3% annual interest. Number of periods is only 1. So all that we need to do is, naturally we have to go to the tables. Which table? Not every table. Every table is not same. Each table is different. Now what we are looking at? We are looking at PVIF, present value interest rate factor, only one time. It's not annuity. Annuity means multiple times. So PVIF means one time only it is 3% is the point, and 1 year means 0.971. In other words, if you receive $10,000 after 1 year, it is not worth 10,000 now. Now it is only worth, what is the present value of that? 9710 only. That is the discounting aspect, and discount rates and discount factors can be used. Of course, as I told, these are the two things you should be very clear. One is discount rate, and second is number of periods, which have to be looked at in the tables. And it is all the same logic that we already know. Future value is what? Present value of something multiply with 1 plus r to the power of n. So naturally present value will be what? Future value divided by 1 plus r to the power of n. You can check that with a normal calculation also. We are looking at now $10,000, right? After 1 year, rate of interest is 3%. Since n is only 1, it is easy. So 1.03, right? So 10,000 divided by 1.03. Why 1.03? 3%. 1 plus r to the power of n is 1. Anything to the power of 1 is same amount. So 1.03. Future value is $10,000. What is the present value of that? Simple. Same thing. Around 9,709. Same thing, 9,710. That's all. Whatever. See, small differences will be there. Never ever bother about those small differences. Those are common. Why? Because we are taking decimals. Here we are taken only 3 decimals, but here the computer has taken perfect amount. So if you just take only 3 decimals, it will be 9710. If not, it is 9709. That $1 difference is something to be completely ignored. So the point of how to compute present values is very simple. It is about 1 divided by 1 plus r to the power of n. So let us say how to calculate these things across the years, PVIFs. PVIFs can be calculated like this. Whatever the rate of interest is, that should be first in mind. Anything, let us take 8%, for example, is the rate of interest. So how to get PVIFs? First, 1 divided by 1.08, because 8%, 1 plus r. Then after that it is easy. Whatever we got divided by 1.08, that means 1 divided by 1.08 square, that means. So we are indirectly doing that. Then one again on that divided by 1.08 means 1 divided by 1.08 cube. Again that divided by 1.08 will give, that is 1 divided by 1.08 to the power of 4. We don't need to do all that. But just to compute them easily also on calculator, we can do that. Sometimes if the reference to tables takes longer time, we can calculate PVIFs easily by using this 1 divided by 1 plus r to the power of n. For number of periods, it is much easier. Directly also it can be calculated, but that requires a bit of computation. Rather than going directly, 5th year, let us say I want to know what is PVIF for 8th year directly. Difficult. Why? Because we have to do 1 divided by 1.08 to the power of 8. Can we do 1.08 to the power of 8 normally with a simple calculator? Difficult. Scientific calculator, it can be done. And some calculators which are allowed in the CMA exam are given here. But again, those are all not required. These all, if you have them, it's okay. If you don't have them, don't worry. Whatever calculator you have normally, that is enough. Because anyway, you can calculate these things very easily. Or you can refer to tables also directly. So 8th directly we may not get. But can we get like this? Yes. Like this we can get. We're doing multiple calculations. So these are the same things naturally which will be there in the tables also. What are you looking at? 8%, 8%, 8%. So look at 8%. 8%. Same things will be there. What are the things? 0.926, correct. 0.857, same. 794. These are the same things that we calculated also. But point is, why should we calculate every time when already these are ready-made available, not required? So use the tables very, very carefully, judiciously. Then it will be very easy and time saving also. That is about computation of PVIFs, present value interest rate factors. Simply discount factors, we can call them. Discount rate and number of time periods, if you know, you can find out the discount factors easily. Now let us take an example here. What will be the amounts that are going to be received or paid, whatever, at the end of each year? Again, normally whenever nothing is mentioned, we are talking about the end of each year. So at 8,000, 9,000, like this. We can just do this separately. So what is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 years, right? Yeah. What is the amount that is going to be received or paid, whatever it is? Let us take that. 8,000, okay. 9,000, okay. 10,000, 11,000, and 12,000. That's all. These are the amounts that are going to be either received or paid. We can call them cash flows. In or out, it doesn't matter. If it is in, it will be a plus amount. If it is out, it is a minus amount. Direction is just important, but that is the end of the thing. Computations are same. So let us say in this example, to be received means inflows. Inflows are going to be like this for 5 years. The question first of all comes, can we use annuity here? Concept of annuity, we cannot. Why is that? Because the amounts that are going to be received are not periodic and they are not same. Periodic, yes, they are, but not same amounts. Amounts are different, but we know for annuity we need same amounts. So we cannot use annuity as a straight calculation. So we need definitely PVIFs for each of these years. For that we need definitely discount rate, which is 5%. That is important point. 5% is the discount rate. Okay, once you have 5%, it is easy. 1 divided by 1.05. That's it. Whatever that is, that divided by 1.05. Then same thing continues. So if you have calculations like this done, this can be done easily. Or you can refer to tables, easy also. 5%, right? So what was the table telling? Same thing it will tell. 0.952, yes. 0.907, same thing. 0.864, 0.823, 0.784, like that. Same things table also will tell. So directly you can copy from here and put it here. Then what you should do? You should multiply them. 8,000 multiplied with 0.952, then 9,000 multiplied with 0.907, and so on. Once you multiplied all of them, what is the total of that? That will be $42,873. But what was the total of the raw amount? That was $50,000. Means you are thinking that you are receiving it at $50,000, but what is the present value of them? It is only $42,873. So it may look like you are receiving 50,000. If you receive 50,000 entire amount now, then the present value of that will be 50,000. Since you are not receiving 50,000 now, you are receiving the two, not one shot, different timelines you are receiving something. What is the present value of all of that? That is $42,873. Like this, present value of anything can be found out. Okay, approximately 42,880, 873. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Always I told you. Small differences will exist, natural. Then, can we do this with formula? We know this already. 1 divided by 1 plus r to the power of n, I to the power of n, whatever the way you use. That can be easily found out. And you can find out the present values of anything easily also. 100,000, 1 year, 9%. Straight away. 100,000 divided by 1.09. Simple. So 91,743. That's all. Same way. What about 2 years? 100,000 for 2 years. Okay. So at the end of 2 years, that means not 100,000, 100,000 each year. So 100,000 at the end of second year, how much will that be? So actually speaking, it should be 1.09 square, right? So let us take it like this for understanding purposes. 1.09 multiplied with 1.09. You can use square function, that is okay. But whatever it is, 84,168, 1.09 square. Like that. Any way we can do it. And otherwise, easier way is also what? First you take 100,000 divided by 1.09. Then you take that divided by 1.09. That is easy. Again, you will get the same amount. That is 84,168. Like that, these things can be computed either by doing raw calculations or by referring to tables. Number of years, if they are more, definitely tables are suggested. 1 or 2 years, you can directly do them on just normal calculator also. Depends upon your convenience. So that is about the understanding of PVIF, present value interest rate factor. One shot, you are receiving certain amount of money after some period. So we have to understand these words very carefully. When I say this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what does it mean? You should know. It means I am going to receive $8,000 at the end of first year. I am going to receive $9,000 at the end of second year. $10,000 at the end of third year. $11,000 at the end of fourth year. $12,000 at the end of fifth year. $12,000 not for 5 years. 5 years is different, fifth year is different. So when are we going to receive them? At the end of the nth year, whichever year it is. So $12,000 when it is going to be received? At the end of fifth year. After 5 years, we are going to receive that. So that is point to be noted also for PVIF, and particularly when it is a one shot single PVIF, one amount of PVIF only. I mean, one amount of cash flow only, whether it is inflow or outflow, which is happening in future naturally. We are computing the present value of it. Now moving on to the annuity concept, same logic. Logic is same. Whenever it is an annuity, the logic is same. When it is an annuity, what should be there? There should be a constant amount, and that should be received or paid at the same point every period, usually end of the period. And the compounding should happen once each period. Is the concept of annuity different for FVIFA and PVIFA? No, it is not. But only what is the difference here is, earlier, once again, we had compounded the amounts that are invested. $1, $1, $1, $1, like that. 5 years it was invested. How much it would become after 5 years? It will not become 5. It will become 5 plus something. That was future value we calculated. Now what we are calculating in here, PVIFA is, of course, you are going to receive $1, $1, $1. Like that for each of the years for 5 years. Now what we are calculating is not how much will become at the end of fifth year. We are calculating what is the present value of that now. So it will be less than 5. FVIFA will be more than 5. PVIFA will be less than 5 naturally, because it is reciprocal, it is opposite. So PVIFA, when we are looking at, we are calculating the present value of some cash flow stream that is occurring at the end of each period for a certain number of years, of course at a particular rate of interest, that is discount rate. So that is PVIFA. Again, formula can be used, but I would suggest easy way of doing the tables. Even tables also can be easily found out. Let us say in this case, if you just total these items, that itself is the annuity factor for 5 years. 4.329, 5% 5 years. PVIFA is nothing but the sum total of PVIFs. That's we have to understand. PVIFA is nothing but the sum total of PVIFs for all these periods. Check that in the tables. PVIFA we are looking at now. What we wanted? 5% 5 years. 5% 5 years. 5% 5 years. So where is it? Here. 4.329. Same. That is the PVIFA, which is nothing but the sum total of individual PVIFs for all those years. But do we need to do that always? Not required. Straight away we can get from the table itself. Now look at an example here. The present value of a $1 annuity factor can be used to calculate the present value on January 1, year 1 of an amount of $10,000 to be received each year beginning the 31st January year 1 and continuing for 5 years where the interest rate is 4%. So that is a story. Story should be understood clearly. Mechanical application will be dangerous. So what is happening is, some money. How much? $10,000 you are going to receive. When? End of each year, starting from 31st December of year 1. Like that. End of each year only, always. Each year, end of each year, you are going to receive $10,000. Amount is same. Amount is same, $10,000. What is the rate of interest? 4%. So there are two ways to do this, which is not required. Straight away we can compute what is the present value of all this by multiplying with annuity factor, taking tables. Two things only again. Percentage, time periods. Percentage is 4%, time period is 5 years. 4%, 5 years. 4%, 5 years. 4%, 5 years. Where is it? 4.452. Simple, directly. So what is the present value of that? Simple. $10,000 multiplied with 4.452. That is 44,520. So the present value of this amount, of course, the total amount is 50,000. That is the non-time value of amount. That is normal amount, raw amount. But what is the present value of that? It is not 50,000. You are not going to receive 50,000. If you are going to receive 50,000 in nominal terms, when you receive them, not now, you are receiving in future. But what is the present value of that 50,000? It is only 44,520. That is a PVIF A application straight away. Of course, this can be done in other way also. Like we know already, 1 divided by 1.04 will give the PVIF. That divided by 1.04 will give PVIF for second year. If we continue that, the PVIFs of 5 years separately can be found out. At what rate of discount? 4%. What is the sum total of all of that? It will be PVIF A, naturally. 4.452, that's what we did. Or you do like this also. Let us say 10,000 multiplied with this, 10,000 multiplied with that, and total all of that. Again, it will be more or less same. 10,500, 44,518 or 44,520. That $2 is because of decimals. So the point is, do we need to do this every time? Because 10,000 is common, right? When 10,000 is common, why should we multiply it with each of the discount factors every time? Not required. That is why instead of doing all these things like we did earlier we did that. Why? Because the amount of cash flows was not uniform. You have to do that. There you cannot use annuity factor. Now we can use annuity factors. Why? Because amount is same. You don't need to multiply the cash flows individually. Rather than that, straight away you can multiply whatever that periodic cash flow is, that is 10,000, with the annuity factor from the tables, 4.452. You will get automatically the present value of this stream of cash flows. It is not one cash flow, it is a stream of cash flows. We have to understand that when we talk about annuity. So how much present value we got? 44,520. Simple. That's it. That is application of PVIF-A. Now, again here also there are two things, ordinary annuity and annuity due, and we know what is the difference. Ordinary annuity means this all 10,000 is happening, or we are receiving them or paying them at the end of the year. Year 1 end, this 10,000 is coming. What if it comes at the year 1 beginning? Then what? Then let us understand the same logic so that it is easy without this amounts and all. Now, this 10,000 is coming at the beginning of year 1. Understand this very carefully. Beginning of year 1 is now only. That is sometimes called 0. Beginning of year 1 is now only. It is not the end of year 1. So, this becomes 0. 0th year. 0 is not actually, there is nothing called 0 here. What is 0? Beginning of year 1. In other words, now. What is the value of $10,000 now? What is the value of $1 now? Naturally $1. It will be $1 only, isn't it? Value of anything now will be that only. When the issue comes, it comes when you are receiving it not now but in future. So now you received some amount, $1, value of that is $1 only. Beginning of year 2. So this is beginning of year 1 means now. Beginning of year 2 means end of year 1. Beginning of year 3 means end of year 2. So end of year 1 we know whatever the rate it is. Let us take the same example of how much we took here, 4%, right? 1 divided by 1.04. That divided by 1.04. That divided by 1.04. That divided by 1.04. So the point is here, for 5 years, what is going to be the annuity factor if it is annuity due? If it is not annuity, ordinary annuity, if it is annuity due, then what is going to be the annuity factor? It is going to be 4.63, not 4.452 as we got earlier. It was 4.452 earlier. Now it is 4.63. That is annuity due. Can we do this all the times, every time? Not required. What is the simple way of doing this now is little different. Now understand this very well. For future value interest rate factors annuity, we took n plus 1 years. And then minus 1 we did. Now we have to do opposite. PVIFA for annuity due. We have to take the PVIFA for ordinary annuity for n minus 1 years. And then add 1. This is the formula. So present value of an annuity due, how to get that? Present value of an ordinary annuity for not n periods, n minus 1 periods, plus 1 you have to do. Let us check that here. 4%, we are talking about 5 years period, but rather than 5 years, what we should take? 4 years only we should take. 4 years, how much was that for 4%? 4 years, 4% was 3.63. Plus 1, 4.63. That's what we got. Same thing. So, how to get annuity factor for an annuity due, present value we are talking, is you have to calculate PVIFA, calculate means take from the table PVIFA for n minus 1 periods, then add 1. For FVIFA, what we did? For FVIFA, in order to get FVIFA for an annuity due, we have to take the FVIFA for n plus 1 periods and minus 1. That is the difference. So, understand the difference and apply this also. Of course, this is an exceptional case, but still it is important. Particularly for PVIFA, it is important because application wise, we are going to do more of PVIF and PVIFA than FVIF and FVIFA. Future values are not that applicable much for our requirements in CMA course. But present values are definitely important. That is why if the present values of some cash flows which are occurring at the beginning of the year you want to calculate, all that you need to do is take the PVIFA for n minus 1 periods, then add 1 to that. You will get the PVIFA for an annuity which is due, not an ordinary annuity. Now you can just take this example also. For example, let us say present value of a $1 ordinary annuity for 4 years at the rate of 16%. Okay, 4 years at the rate of 16%. 4 years, 16%. 16%, 4 years. 16%, 4 years. How much is that? 2.798. Okay, 2.798. What if it is ordinary annuity for 3 years? When this 2.798 will be applicable only when the cash flows are happening at the end of each year. Then the question comes, sir, what if this $1,000, whatever it is coming not at the end of each year, but beginning of each year? Coming or going, it doesn't matter. Inflow or outflow doesn't matter. But whatever is the periodicity of that, each year at the beginning, if it is coming or going, then what? Then it is called annuity due. Then how to calculate the annuity factor? We cannot take 2.798. We have to take definitely for the same 16%, but not for 4 years. We should take for only 3 years. 16%, 3 years. 2.246. Then add 1. 2.246 plus 1 means 3.246 will be the one. So 3246 will be the value. So how to get PVIFA for an annuity due is simply taking the PVIFA for an ordinary annuity for n minus 1 periods, then adding 1. Same way for FVIFA annuity due can be taken or calculated by using basic ordinary annuity FVIFA for n plus 1 periods minus 1. That's it. That is about PVIF and PVIF-A. Now let us look at the application of this at various places. For example, let us say an annual loan payment of $100,000 is happening for a 5 years loan at an interest rate of 6% per annum, with the payments due at the end of the period. This you have to look at very carefully, because end means it is ordinary annuity. Each of the 5 years, how much will be the annual loan payment for a $100,000 5-year loan with an interest rate of 6%. So simple way of calculating EMIs. How EMIs are calculated? This is how they are calculated. So point is, loan amount is $100,000. Okay, loan amount is $100,000 means, if you look at the bank point of view, bank should get $100,000. Bank should get $100,000 in total principal amount, but it has interest also. So what should be the loan amount and what is the periodic payment that should happen? So this is how it has to be understood. What are the periodic payment you are paying, that is annuity, that multiplied with the present value interest rate factor annuity should be equal to this $100,000, because this annuity amount in this example, say 5 years loan means, will it be 20,000? No, it will not be 20,000, because 20,000 is without interest. Definitely it should be more than 20,000. You have to pay more than 20,000 so that the bank will get interest also as part of its this $100,000 original loan that it has given. So how to get this? Simple. PVIF-A you have to check for 6%, 5 years. 6%, 5 years. 6%, 5 years. How much is that? 4.212. So once you have that $100,000, this comes here, 4.212. That will give you what is the periodic payment, or EMI, or in this case equated annual installment you can call it. So $100,000 divided by 4.212. So what is the periodic payment now? Simple. That is around $23,742. That's all. So this is the annuity amount one should pay, so that the bank will get a 6% return compounded annually, and you will bear 6% interest as an expenditure inherent in that. And ultimately the loan amount of $100,000 is repaid by paying this $23,742 each year for 5 years. That is the point to be noted. So this is the way even we can calculate EMIs, we can calculate the installments of annual installments of loans to be paid. All these things can be taken. So for example, same way, just to take a simple example for understanding purposes. Say you purchased some car or something like that for $50,000. Let us say, as an example, say you purchased a car for $50,000, and you took a vehicle loan. You want to take a vehicle loan, and banks will calculate like this only. And let us say the rate of interest what the bank charges is 8%, and that will depend upon the number of years in which you want to pay, or number of installments in which you want to pay. Let us take the tables and then see how many periods we have. On that basis we can take. Okay, up to 40 we have, there is no problem. PVIF AS we have up to 40 also, so that's okay. Let us say you want to pay this in 30 installments. Okay, you want to pay this in 30 installments, monthly installments, 30 monthly installments. So number of periods is 30, but is interest 8%? No, it cannot be. Why? Simple. Once again, because let us take this as 12% so that it will be easier. 12% is per annum, so naturally it will be per month. How much? 1%. So 1%, 30 installments you should look at, 30 monthly installments. So how to get that? Straight away 1%, 1%, first column only. 30 installments means 25.808. So 50,000 divided by 25.808 will give us how much is your monthly installment? Simple. So what is your monthly installment? Approximately $1937. If you pay $1937 for 30 months, then your loan will be repaid. But again, understand the concept carefully. $1937 you are paying for 13 months. That means how much amount you are paying in raw terms? You are not paying 50,000. Naturally, you are paying more than that. Why, sir? Why, sir? Why you are paying more than that? Because there is interest also to be paid. So what is the interest component included in this? Around $8,122. That is included already in this 1937. So that is how equated monthly installments can be calculated in case of hire purchase transactions, leasing transactions, finance lease particularly, or any case where there is an installment to be calculated, equal installment to be calculated, so that a lump sum amount is reached after n number of periods at a rate of interest of I% or R% per period. This is the application of PVIFA. That is one of the applications. It can be applied in many situations. Depends. Now let us look at another scenario. Let us say the annual payment amount is known, that is 23,742. And what is the principal amount here? So principal amount also can be noted just like that. Whatever this is. Annual amount is how much? 23,742. Like that for 5 years it is happening. At the end of each year for 5 years it is happening. Rate of interest is 6%. So all that you need to do is simple. Go to the present value interest rate factor tables, annuity tables, and look at them for the right percentage. Percentage is 6%, 5 years, 6%, 5 years. We know that 4.212. Already we have that. So this multiplied with 4.212 will approximately give you the same amount, that is the principal amount of $100,000. Either way, the calculations have to be done. So if you know the principal amount, you know very well that how much is going to be the installment amount. But if you know the installment amount, you can also know the principal amount, what is there. And what is the interest that is going to be paid over the life of the loan? That can be also easily calculated, because in the amount 23,742, you are paying 5 times. So you are paying not $100,000. Actually, you are paying 118,710. Minus of that $100,000 if you take out, how much interest you are paying actually effectively throughout this period of 5 years. Not once. You are paying it in installments. So your each installment includes the principal amount also and interest amount also. But in total, for this entire deal, how much interest you are paying? Around $18,710. Same thing. That is the amount of interest which is paid along with this installment. Total of that interest. Then another way of looking at it is a reverse calculation. For example, what is the effective interest rate for a loan if you want to take? Then also it is okay, but we have to do the reverse calculation. For example, if you take the annual loan payment on a $25,000 loan is 5,935. What is the interest rate? We don't know. So in this case, all that you need to do is, you need to first find out the discount rate or the present value interest rate factor annuity, which is not known. $25,000 divided by 5,935 gives us an annuity rate factor of PVIFA of around 4.212. 4.212. We know the term here. Term, at least one thing we know, 5 years. Now you can go to the tables and straight away take where you get this 4.212 for 5 years, for 5 years, 5 years, where you get 4.212, 4.212. Here you will get. That means the effective rate of interest is approximately 6%. Simple. So reverse calculation also possible to be done from observation of the tables. So when principal amount is known, interest percentage and time period is known, we can find out the installment amount. When installment amount is known and time period is known and interest rate is known, we can find out the principal amount. When principal amount is known, installment is known and the period is known, we can find out the total of interest, how much it is. Or when principal amount is known, installment amount is known, time period is known, we can find out interest percentage. See, any situation, not only here, any situation, there will be certain things which are required. So what is the situation here? The story, if you understand, there is an installment. That installment multiplied with a PVIFA will give you a principal amount, simple. But PVIFA depends upon two things. One is rate of interest. Second one is time period. So totally how many factors are there? Four factors are there. One is the installment amount. Two is interest rate. Three is the time period. And four is the principal amount. Out of these four, any three are given, the other one can be calculated. What is there in that? That can be just simply calculated by substituting in this situation. And if R and T both are there, you can directly find out PVIFA. But if only one of them is there, you can find out the other one by referring to the tables. That is how PVIFA can be applied. Different scenarios. Look at another scenario here. Let us say this case. Samson wants to withdraw 20,000 per year for 5 years at the end of each year from an account. The account pays 5% interest during that period, compounded annually. How much does he need to invest today in order to withdraw 20,000 per year and empty the account by the end of 5 years? So he wants to withdraw $20,000 at the end of each year. Okay, like that for 5 years. How much he has to put an amount now? Again, the same logic. If he puts whatever an amount, whatever that X amount is, right, that should be equal to the present values of the $20,000 which he is drawing at the end of each year for a period of 5 years. How to get that? PVIFA. So, for 5%, that is the interest rate. For a period of 5 years, what is the PVIFA? Look at the PVIFA tables. 5%, 5 years. 4.329. 4.329. That's all. So if he has to get $20,000 each year at the end of each year for a period of 5 years, how much does he need to invest? Does he need to invest $100,000? No, he doesn't need to. He can invest only $86,580. Enough. If he invests $86,580 one shot now, then he can get $20,000 at the end of each year. Like that also, PVIFA concept can be applied. That is another application or a situation where this can be applied. Formula for PVIFA is this: 1 plus I to the power of n minus 1 divided by I into 1 plus I to the power of n. Once again, formulae generally are not suggested. Why? Because in the examination, to find out this to the power of 5, to the power of 20, to the power of 30, these all things are not that easy. So, particularly for PVIFA or FVIFA, for annuities, I would suggest don't worry about formulae, directly go to the tables. For normal PVIF, it is simple. 1 divided by 1 plus R to the power of n. This is okay. There you can use the formula. For normal FVIF, that is simple. 1 plus R to the power of n. So these things you can use formulae practically also. For annuities, I don't suggest using the formulae for examination point of view because it will waste a lot of time. So that is the concept of time value of money in a nutshell. And once again, there are 4 things here. One is PVIF, present value interest rate factors, which is talking about present value of a $1 that is received at the end of nth period. That's what it means. Then PVIFA is about present value of $1, but not just received once, received multiple times at the end of each period for n periods. So, n periods means, let us say 5 years means, not only at the end of 5th year you are receiving, end of 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, each period you are receiving. Like that, n times you are receiving. So it is not one cash flow, it is a stream of cash flows. Of course, equal amount of cash flows that is going to be either coming in or going out at the end of each year for a period of n years or periods. Of course, for all of them, some discount rate or interest rate percentage is important. That is PVIF and PVIFA. Future value interest rate factor is compounding. If you invest $1 now, how much it will become after nth year? That is FVIF. Same way, FVIFA means if you invest $1 not once, Again, number of times if you keep on investing periodically same amount for n number of periods, here also, again, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, every year you are investing the same amount. Like that for n periods you are investing. What is the total of that becoming at the end of that nth period? That is FVIFA. These are the four things: PVIF, PVIFA, FVIF, FVIFA. These are the four things that will tell us about the time value of money, and application of this is enormous. Multiple places these all concepts can be applied, and of course for our syllabus in CMA, particularly we applied these things in cases like bond valuation, in cases like valuation of a company, in cases like valuation of equity shares, or even for that matter computation of the present value of the equity shares depending upon the dividends that they are going to receive in future. In multiple cases within the corporate finance we apply these concepts. And also most importantly than that is investment decisions, where we apply these present value concepts extensively. So knowing these concepts is very, very important, and application of them at multiple places has to be done very, I would say, carefully and knowingly, not mechanically. Where the people will get wrong answers is they want multiplications, divisions done and some number to be somehow produced. No, that will not help. Why are you doing it? What are the numbers you are multiplying? Why are you multiplying? Why are you dividing? What does it mean? Unless and until you know that concept, there is no mechanical way of applying this time value of money, tables, whatever you have. These are only just tools. If you get the best tools in the world also, if you do not have the skill of using them, what is the use of it? These are the tools only. They give us a very good, actually time saving situation. But when you use them perfectly, for the perfect situation, which table to be used, and observing the numbers carefully by looking at the percentage and the time period is a crucial aspect. Now let us just quickly go through some of the questions related to this concept of time value of money. Some of the questions we can say. Looking at some of these things, first present value related questions, let us take. Following information is there for the next two questions. The Crown Corporation has agreed to sell some used computer equipment to Bob Parsons, a company employee, for $5,000. Crown and Parsons have been discussing alternative financing arrangements for the sale. Information in the following column is pertinent to these discussions. Okay, present value of an ordinary annuity of $1 is given already. These things, nothing here. It is about from the tables only directly. Now, first question is, Crown has offered to accept $1,000 down payment and set up a note receivable for Bob that calls for $1,000 payment at the end of this year and next 3 years. End of this year and next 3 years. If Crown uses a 6% discount rate, what is the present value of the note receivable? So there is a note that is going to be receivable, which calls for $1,000 payment at the end of this year and next 3 years also. And 6% is the discount rate that we are talking about. First $1,000 down payment is going to be made. Now, the point is, first of all, this $1,000 is definitely down payment, right? $1,000 down payment is happening out of the 5,000 means remaining is only $4,000. That is the first point to be noted. Remaining amount is only $4,000. So how much should be the present value of this note receivable, which will be having a $1,000 payment at the end of this year and next 3 years also. End of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? End of first year, second year, third year, fourth year. 6% is the discount rate. What is the present value interest rate factor annuity? For 6% for 4 years. 6%, 4 years. That is 3.465. 3.465. So simple. That is a point here to be noted. 3.465 multiplied with how much is the amount, periodical amount? 1000. So how much is going to be the present value of that? $3465. So the correct answer obviously will be D. Direct question. 3465. That is the application of PVIF-A. So here also the table is given for 6%. These three things are useless. Why? Because we are looking at 6% only. That is the only thing that is required. And payments here it is given as a second, third, fourth. So same thing. First, second, third, fourth payment. For fourth payment, how much is that? 3.465. Multiply with 1000. That will be $3465. Answer is D. Then 123rd question. Bob Parsons has agreed to immediate down payment of $1,000 but would like the note for $4,000 to be payable in full at the end of the fourth year. Because of the increased risk associated with the terms of this note, Crown Corporation would apply an 8% discount rate. What is the present value of this note? Again, what has changed? $4,000 to be payable in full at the end of fourth year. It is not going to be $1,000 each year. Earlier, what was the scenario in 122nd question? $1,000 at the end of this year and next 3 years, means $4,000 are paid. 1,000. Now it is not going to be like that. It is going to be paid as $4,000 to be payable in full at the end of fourth year. What is the present value of that? Simple. We have to just look at 8% discount rate. And what is the PVIF at the end of fourth year for 8%? 8%. 8% fourth year. 8% fourth year. So that will be how much? 3.312. What is the present value of this? $4,000. Sorry, we are looking at PVIF-A. That was wrong, first of all. We should not look at PVIF-A. It is only one time, no? It is not a periodic payment. $4,000 at the end of the fourth year. PVIF we have to look at. 8% discount rate, 4 years. Okay, fourth year. 8% fourth year means how much? This one. That is 0.735. So all that we need to do is 4,000 multiplied with 0.735. How much is that? Compute it. 4,000 multiplied with 0.735. Approximately 2940. So naturally the answer will be A. 2940. That is the present value of this particular note, which will be only payable once at the end of fourth year. So here there is no annuity, it is only one time. But that is not happening now, it is happening at the end of fourth year. What we need is the present value of that. Multiply that with the PVIF for 4 years at the rate of 8%. That's it. Earlier 122nd question was annuity, because 1,000 will be paid each year, like that for 4 times. So what was the PVIF-A? 3.465 multiplied with that 1,000. Then 3,465 was the present value of that particular note. Here 2,940 is the present value of that particular note. That is question number 123. Then question number 124. A corporation is contemplating the purchase of a new piece of equipment with a purchase price of $500,000. It plans to make a 10% down payment and will receive a loan for 25 years at the rate of 9% interest. Present value interest rate factor for annuity for $1 per year for 25 years at 9% is already given. So we don't need to look at the tables also. What is the annual payment required on the loan? That will be. So simple logic. $500,000 is the original price of the equipment. 10% down payment you are making, which means $50,000 you are making a down payment. So that is not going to happen in future. That is happening now. So what is happening in future? How much you have to repay? You have to repay $450,000 principal amount divided by whatever is 9.8226. You will get the installment amount. Simple. 450,000 divided by 9.8226. So what is going to be the installment amount? Approximately 45,813. Straight away we got it. Answer is B. That is question number 124. So these are the applications of present value concepts. Various places this can be applied. We don't have to worry about the application part if you are clear with the conceptual part, because application can happen at many places, not just one. Again, I'm telling you, these are the tools which are there, techniques which are there, which can be applied any place. If you are clear with the concepts, then application can just happen according to whatever the question that we face. Now let us apply the future value concepts also in these questions. Question number 125. Look at this. Janet Taylor Casual Wear has a $75,000 in a bank account as of December 31st, year 1, end of the year. If the company plans on depositing $4,000 in the account at the end of each year for next 3 years, means year 2, year 3 and year 4, and all amounts are going to earn 8% per year, what will be the account balance at the end of 4th year, that is the 4th year, December 31st? Ignore the effect of income taxes. Okay, 8% is the interest rate. Already how much it has at the end of year 1? It has $75,000 at the end of year 1. This can be easily calculated. $75,000 is already there at the end of year 1, right? 31st December year 1 means end of year 1. And now it is going to deposit $4,004 at the end of each year from year 2 onwards, year 2, year 3 and year 4. Okay. So how much will be the amount here at the end of year 4 is what is the question. So what is the future value of an ordinary annuity is given here, because same amount of 4,000 is going to be deposited. We can take the annuities as a easy computational tool, since the same 4,000 is going to be deposited each period. Okay, ordinary annuity we are looking at. So what is that? How many times it is going to happen? Year 2, year 3 and year 4. So period 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4,000 multiplied with 3.25. This is the one. Why? Because only 3 periods only we are going to deposit. Only 3 times, right? Year 2, year 3 and year 4. Only 3 times this is going to happen. So for 3 periods only we have to take this future value of an ordinary annuity of $1. For 3 periods, 3.25. So $4,000 multiplied with 3.25 will be how much? 4,000 multiplied with 3.25 will be $13,000. Keep it aside. But will this be the only amount? No. We already have a $75,000 at the end of year 1. How many times it is going to earn interest also? It is going to earn interest 3 more times. End of year 2, year 3 and year 4. So what is the future value of that? That can be found out. This 75,000 will become how much? Multiply with 1.26. So 75,000 multiplied with 1.26 will be 94,500. So the original amount of 75,000 after the 4th year, of course, already 1 year is over. So forget about that. 3 more years we can say. 3 more years. After 3 more years, it will be 94,500. 75,000 will become 94,500. But in addition to that, we have deposited $4,000, and that happened for 3 years. 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, like that. What is the total future value of that? That is going to be 13,000. So total of this will be $107,500. So answer for this question will be D. That is question number 125. Now, question number 126. Kiefer Incorporation recently reported earnings per share of $3. A security analyst recently issued a report that Kiefer earnings are forecasted to grow at $4.41 per share in growth 2, actually. $4.41 per share in 5 years. What is the forecasted compounded annual growth rate in the earnings per share rounded to the nearest percentage point. Use the factor tables where we can take them. From that, how it will be. So simple point is, now 3 multiplied with something is going to become 4.41 after 5 years. How much is the something? 4.41 divided by 3. So what is going to be the FVIF? That is 1.47. So 3 now, if it is growing at some whatever compounded annual rate, will become 4.41. And 1.47 is not the rate, it is the future value interest rate factor. But the point is, this can be looked at in the tables, and which percentage is representing that 1.47. For 5 years we can find out, reverse calculation. 5 years we want how much? 1.47. Where is it? For 5 years 1.47, approximately this, which means automatically the compounded growth rate is 8%. That's all. Answer is B for 126. Then question number 127. Mega Power estimates that the cost to decommission its nuclear power plant in today's dollars is $500 million. Okay, the cost is expected to escalate at 5% per year over the life of the plant, and Mega must collect a constant amount each year from the customers over the remaining 20 years life of the plant and place the amount in a fund that is expected to earn a rate of 7% per year. The fund currently has a balance of $100 million. How much must Mega collect from customers each of the next 20 years to cover the decommissioning costs? Ignore the income tax effects and round to millions, and we can use the tables here. So point is, first of all, there are so many things here. First of all, in today's dollars terms, $500 million is going to be the cost of decommissioning a plant, and it will increase 5% per year. Each year 5% compounding over the life of the project. Okay, what is the life of the project? 20 years. So first of all, how much will be the cost after 20 years? So how much this 500 will become? So all that we need to do is 5%, 20 years, FVIF we have to look at. 5%, 20 years. 20 years, 5%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. So 2 point, which one we are looking at? FVIF, correct. FVIF, 20 years, 5%, 2.653. So the point here is, now it may cost $500 million. After 20 years, it will not cost $500 million. It will cost more. How much is that going to be? 500 multiplied with this 2.653. So 500 multiplied with 2.653 is $1,326.5 million it will cost after 20 years to decommission this nuclear plant. That is one information, keep it aside. Then it had, that means at the end of 20 years, it requires this much amount, $1,327 million, almost it requires $1,327 million approximately, it will require. But already it has a fund of $100 million. Okay, already it has a fund of $100 million. This 100 will become how much after 20 years? Same, of course, not same. Why? Because that will be percentage of interest different here. Rate of 7% it is earning. So this 100 after 20 years, how much it will become? At 7%. 7%. 7%, 20 years. 20 years, 7%. 3.87. So 3.87 means $387 it will become. So at the end of 20 years, it might require $1,327 million. But at that point of time, it will already have $387 million because the $100 million fund will earn 7% interest. And it will become $387 million by that time, after 20 years. So at the end of 20 years, how much it requires is $940 million it will require at the end of 20 years. Now the question is, it has to collect some amount from the customers each year for the 20 years to cover this cost. That means how much it should collect from customers? $940 million extra it should collect. It will require $1327 million and it will have $387 million, but it requires 940 to be collected from customers. And interest rate is 7%. Now, each year how much it has to be? That means now annuity will come. Each year how much it has to collect from the customers? Each year. Like that 20 years. So now we have to move on to FVIFA. 7% rate of interest, 20 years. FVIFA. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it 7% rate of interest? Yes, it is. 7% rate of interest is what they can invest the money, a fund, and it will collect from the customers how much annually for next 20 years. 40.995 is the FVIFA. So simply all that you need to do is 940 divided by, how much is that? 40.995. Let's say 41, let us say, just for 940 divided by 41. So approximately how much it has to collect is $23 million. Simple. So answer is C for question number 127. So multiple points are there here. First of all, how much it requires at the end of 20 years? That is one calculation. How do we know that? Because costs are escalating 5% each year. Now $500 million. But after 20 years, it will not be $500 million. It will be $1327 million that will be required. Okay, fine. From that, we already have $100 million fund, but that is not going to be remaining $100 million. It will also increase at the rate of 7% each year. So at the end of 20 years, how much that will be? $387 million. So from 1327, if you deduct 387, $940 million is the amount to be collected from customers. Each year, how much to be collected? 940 divided by the FVIFA, that will give $23 million to be collected from the customers each year. That's it. That is the application of various aspects of time value of money and PVIF, PVIFA, FVIF and FVIFA. That concludes this discussion on time value of money, and with that we can close this session. Thank you very much. See you next time with another topic. Bye bye. Take care. See you. Thank you.